Oh, there she is. You've got seconds to spare. You're good. I'd like to call Butte-Silver Borough Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 to order. Clerk, can we please have roll call?
We have 11 present and 1 absent.
11 present, 1 absent. Please note that Commissioner Fisher is absent tonight and excused. Commissioner Sorge, could we please do the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Fellow Commissioners, Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the January 19th, 2022 meeting. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I've moved to approve the minutes that occurred on January 19th, 2020 meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, items not addressed on the agenda. Do we have anything, clerk? Anything that's not on? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to the Chief Executive's report. As many may know, that we have started the community ARPA $1 million grant program that we have out there for the community. We did have our first training today, and we will have our second training for any of those that are applying for the grant funds, and those are the $40,000 to $100,000 grant funds that we're putting out to the public, and that will be Tuesday at noon at the archives. So it'll be next Tuesday at noon at the archives, and that is part of applying for those grants. You'd need to attend one of those trainings to get all the background knowledge and the rules that will go along with the ARPA training. So other things that have gone on, Business View magazine had an article about Butte that just came out, and I'll be forwarding that on to the commissioners here, but they did a really nice job. There was only one mistake, and I sent it back to them, that they put Butte, or Montana Technical College, or University, instead of Montana Technological University. So I sent a message to them about that, but they did a really nice job on that article and portrayed a nice picture of Butte on that. Other things, Governor was out visiting Montana Craft Mall today. Got to meet with him just for a little bit and kind of showcase a lot of the great things that are going on out of Montana Connection. So that was a nice time to be able to visit with him about things that are happening and seeing him and making sure that he understands we're still relevant here as well. So that was good to meet with him today. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, close out the Chief Executive's report. And we'll move on to any public comment on any item on the agenda. If you want to talk about any item on the agenda tonight, please come forward, state your name, the item number that you'll be speaking of, and your address. Is there anybody that would like to speak on anything on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we're going to move section 3 ahead of section 1 tonight. And section 3, once I get to it, is communication number 2022-51, JP Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence for the appointment of Riley Hash, 118 Milky Way, Matt Huxtable, 945 West Woolman, and Jacob Hamlin, 1628 Dewey Boulevard, Butte, Montana, who have completed the required 6-month probationary period, and they have performed the required duties in a very satisfactory manner per Chief Zach Osborne. And could we have Chief Osborne please come forward?
Chief Executive Gallagher, members of the council, thanks for having me tonight. Yeah, as you guys know, we're here to, we're asking you guys consideration for these three gentlemen and appointing them to firemen. They have completed their 6-month probationary period that we hold within our department. It's just a little history on the probationary period. They have to pass a series of rigorous tasks, written tests, map readings, driving tests. They did it with flying colors. Not only are these guys proven themselves to be future great firemen, but they're pretty fabulous young men. They've helped out tremendously in the past 6 months in my office, in the fire department, in our community. We held a pretty good ceremony at the station before we came here tonight with all the members. Just want to say thanks for the Racetrack Volunteer Fire Department as well for showing their support. That's generous of them. So asking you guys your consideration for their appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. Could we have Riley, Matt, and Jacob please come forward? I just want to congratulate the three of you, and after the concurrence of the commissioners here, but we're proud to have you on our fire department. So I guess I will move this over to Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I also want to extend my congratulations, and we just love to see more people, young people coming on board. So at this time, I would move to concur with communication number 2022-51 and place on file J.P. Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council Commissioners' appointment of Riley Hash, Matt Huxtable, and Jacob Hanley.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Oh, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I just want to congratulate Jacob and Riley. I've known them for quite a while. Working at the hospital when they were with A1, they did a phenomenal job with that. I heard nothing but good things from people they were transporting all the time, and the families and everybody they worked with. So, Chief, I know that you have two. Matt, I don't know you, but I'm sure you're the same character as two flanking you, but I just want to congratulate both of you and say that it's an honor for me to vote for all three of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thanks, Chief Executive Gallagher. Sorry.
It's a tough name.
It is. I'm sorry. Gentlemen, congratulations, the three of you. I just wanted to give my shout out to Mr. Hanley. Used to, he was went from a busser to a very good dishwasher and a fun person to work with. So as old as I am and as young as you are, and I'm really proud of you staying the course, and I'm pretty jacked to be able to pump the button for you, man. So congratulations definitely to all three of you guys. So cheers.
All right, could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Congratulations, gentlemen. And here's to a successful career for all three of you here in Butte. All right. Moving back to section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and/or presentations. We do have a public hearing on resolution number 2021-55. County Attorney, do we have proof of publication?
Mr. Chief Executive, we do have proof of publication. It does appear to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. This is a resolution of intent to present to qualified electors of the city and county of Butte-Silver Montana, the question of whether to impose a 3% local option excise tax on the retail value of all non-medical marijuana and all non-medical marijuana products sold in the city and county of Butte-Silver Bow. And the separate question on whether to impose a 3% local option excise tax on the retail value of all medical marijuana and all medical marijuana products sold in the city and county of Butte-Silver Bow, providing for an effective date herein. And I guess I will speak to this a little bit. This is the county's opportunity, and we've kind of talked about this in the past, the county's opportunity to be able to impose a tax on the recreational side of marijuana, and also a separate decision on whether to impose a 3% tax on the medical marijuana. And knowing that, currently the state imposes 20%, I think we all saw the article today in the paper that, $20 million, I believe, was sold in recreational and medical marijuana in the last month. I think that the state, they're going to decide what they're going to do with that money, but I don't anticipate a lot of that's going to be driven our way. And so this is an opportunity for Butte-Silver Bow to be able to put a tax on this, to be able to work and deal with the impacts that any kind of substance may bring onto the community, no different than alcohol or other, what we call sin taxes, I guess. So I think this is an opportunity that we put to the taxpayers and the voters of Butte-Silver Bow and allow them to vote on this. So with that, that's my report. I will open up a public hearing for any proponents for this. So I'll open the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. So move on to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. All right, moving on to Section 2 consent agenda. We'll go Section A, community reports 1 through 4, and B, communications 1 through 15. Do we have any segregations or friendly amendments? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to segregate item 6 as 2022-55. And then
Item number 6,
Item 6.
22-55.
right, and then also item 9, 2022-58.
And item number 9, communication number 2022-58. Any other segregations or friendly amendments? Seeing none, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the consent agenda A1 through 4 and B1 through 15, pardon me, with exceptions of item 6, 22-55, and item 9, 22-58.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda. Anything on the question? Would commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving back to communication number 2022-55, Zach Osborne, Director of Fire Services, requesting Council of Commissioners approval to seek bids for a Type 3 engine. I'm requesting that the $183,000 that was approved for the new fire rescues in fiscal year 2021-2022 fire fund to be reserved and used as a down payment on a new Type 3 engine. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. First of all, I just want to say that this letter was really nicely done for the communication. I think it was maybe Zach's first, and it gave a lot of detail, but I didn't have much background in this, and so I did talk to Danette, and she fully vetted the proposal, but I was going to ask Zach if he would come up and just answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Before the meeting started tonight and all that, a couple of us were chatting about this and all that, and At the time that this was put forward and all that, there was, at the time, said there was a need for this particular engine that was invested in by Butte-Silver Bowl. I understand things change, and I think that's what the council would appreciate, is just how this came about and what is a, let me look again here.
Type 3.
A Type 3 engine. I think that, you know, it's a learning process. I'm not a fireman, and naturally, we back you 100%, but I think if you would help us out there, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Reardon, Chief Osborne.
Chief Executive, members of the council, yeah, thanks for letting me explain my letter a little bit. I'll just give you a little brief history of how we got here and where we're trying to go. As everybody knows, a couple months ago, we had a different chief. That administration just had a little different set of priorities. They were not wrong by any means. We've just fixed some things in the last couple months that Chief Doherty did not foresee. So let me explain. Chief Doherty was approved for $140,000 to replace our 2 rescue units. Our rescue units are 2012 F-550s. They're considered Type 6 vehicles, meaning they have 300 gallons of water and capabilities to do more than just run rescue calls. For example, we use them on wildland calls, on car fires, dumpster fires, any kind of small fires. So at the time, we were having quite a few issues with maintenance of those 2 rescues. It was costing us a pretty substantial amount of money, and Chief Doherty thought it was best to move on from those. He went out and got bids to replace those 2 rescues with pickup truck style rescues that did not hold water. They hold a tank of water. Sorry, they held a compressed water that was very small, and maybe a good idea for us to look at in the future, but being that it's a large amount of money, I just wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence in researching those units before we throw money at something that we don't fully know their capabilities. That was $140,000 that was approved. The other $43,000 was going to be used to modify our current rescue trucks into Type 5 wildland units. What that means, if you remember, I said Type 6 is what they are right now. They're a 300-gallon tank with a pump. A Type 5 is putting a 500-gallon tank with a pump. So you're modifying those vehicles. Now the big concern there is that they were going to have to cut 4 feet off of the frame of that vehicle. And at the time, the shops said that they could do it for $43,000. After lots of conversation with Mr. Carpenter at the shops, common sense tells you that you may run into problems when you're cutting frames. May be a good idea for us to look at in the future. Right now, I just don't want to gamble with that amount of money. And the $140,000 that was supposed to go to the rescues is now $180,000. So we wouldn't have money to even do the conversions. So kind of a waste in the 2 vehicles. Since that time, the county shops has hired an individual who is a genius in our fire apparatus. We brought him our 2 rescue trucks. He went through them with a fine-tooth comb, he said, fixed everything that he saw fixable, and explained to me that they have more years in their life. So to cut frames or to sell them or to do something to me seemed silly. When our main priority right now is replacing our engines. So in our stations right now, in our paid stations, we have 5 Type 1 engines. 3 of them are frontline engines, and 2 of them are backline or second call engines. First calls always go out first. When the first line engines go down or to the shop, you call on the second call. If there's a fire and we have to backfill the stations, that second lineup engine needs to perform its duties. Next month, one of our first line engines is going in for a complete engine replacement. That one is a 2013 Pierce Type 1. That's a sister engine to our other engine that I would say is not far behind it. I'm telling you this because we use our second line engines more than anybody would think. So a Type 3 engine, to answer your question, Mr. Reardon, is pretty close to a Type 1. And how I would mean by pretty close is we would order it as a modified, not modified as when we're cutting frames, but you can special order Type 3s so that they are fully capable of running every structure fire. Okay, a Type 1 is a pure structure fire engine, not made to go off-road, has no four-wheel drive, can't go through snow, hard time making up hills, and so forth. The modified Type 3 has the same size pump, has the same size tank, and can do everything that a Type 1 engine can do. Pump the same amount of water, hold the same amount of water. However, it's higher off the ground, all-wheel drive. We can also use it to go into our wildland urban face areas. We do not have any Type 3s. That Type 3 is anywhere between $475,000 to $500,000, roughly half the price of a new Type 1. These Type 3s could be our future if you consider Roosevelt Drive, the Moulton, any of our little Basin Creek areas where we often are stuck, literally, in the mud, in the snow with two-wheel drive Type 1 engines that we are expecting to get to somebody's house. So this Type 3 would not only serve as a fantastic second due engine, but it would relieve the pressure off of our first due engine because we could pick and choose which call it is going on. So if it is a structure fire where we would normally send engine 1, which is our Type 1, all the guys would have to do is listen to the tones, figure out where it's at, move their gear over to this Type 3, and they could respond to the call. So what I was asking is to reserve those funds of $183,000 to use as a down payment on that Type 3. And I'm asking you guys to consider helping out me with the difference of somewhere around $320,000 between the down payment that I would have and what the final cost would be. Hopefully I explained that as detailed as I could. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. First, Commissioner Shaw.
Okay, sorry, John. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Thank you, Chief Osborne, for that explanation. There are a couple things I thought we might clarify in that. I believe you told me, and I think Danette as well, that if you do the down payment, it locks in the price. And otherwise, the way things are going with our economy, the price, it takes 14 to 16 months to build one of these. So over that time span, I understand that we might be facing an increase. So this locks in the price as of the time that you put the down payment. Is that correct?
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Chief Osborne?
Yeah, Chief Executive Council, thanks for reminding me to tell you. Yeah, it takes 14 to 16 months to build these. Everything these days, labor and lack of labor and hard to get parts and pieces. But 14 to 16 months, yes, if we give them our down payment, they're asking for 125. So whether we use 125 or all of 183,000, yes, that would lock in the price as soon as we decide.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. Commissioner Sorge?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Zach, how many Type 1s are in Butte right now? How many are within all the departments of Type 1s? Approximate. How many apparatus? There's quite a few apparatus in Butte. There's
Commissioner Sorge, Chief Osborne?
Yeah, Chief Executive Council, we have 37 pieces of apparatus. Number of Type 1s, you're putting me on the spot, John. Each station, each volunteer station, each paid station has at least one, up to two. Some have tender pumpers. So I would say we at least have 14 to 15 Type 1 engines, which is a reason we're trying to go somewhere elsewhere. Besides the ladder truck Type 1 engines, we bought our two Type 1s, engines 1 and 2 in 2013 for $750,000, and the ladder truck that we have was $1.1 million. They've gone up substantially, probably $1 million for a Type 1, 1.5 for a ladder. Again, this new way of Type 3s could be our future. That's another thing I'd like to mention. 37 pieces of apparatus. We're not adding one. I don't want 38. So we would take all the equipment off of our engine 3 that we would be replacing, and I'd like to talk about engine 3 if I could too. We would take all the equipment off of engine 3, put it on the new Type 3, and sell the Type 3, or our engine 3 that we have, not the Type 3, just an engine 3. We name our engines, and sell that, and then that money would then go back to our general fund. The engine that it would replace would be our engine 3. That's a 2001 Spartan. That's not even our oldest one in our fleet. We bought the 2001 Spartan on a sale, and I believe Chief Miller said we thought we had a good deal, and that's the one that they bought. It was not a spec'd out truck. It was basically off the lot, if you will, lacking big time in horsepower. It goes up Main Street or Montana Street or any of those uptown streets at approximately 10 miles an hour. It has an oversized pump that or an oversized tank that we really don't need as a Type 1. It has a 1,000-gallon tank. Normally Type 1s have 750. So it's heavy, underpowered. It has a light system right now that is not working. The parts they're not even made anymore. The shop said it would cost roughly $10,000 to $12,000 just for a new light system to make lights work on a truck that we cannot get in uptown Butte. And a truck often goes to uptown from the south side station when we have fires uptown or there's an emergency uptown. It goes up quite often, so thanks for letting me specify.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. Commissioner Callahan?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Mr. Osborne, I appreciate you coming to us tonight and kind of explaining that. And I don't know if you remember, but back when you were an interim, before Brian was completely gone yet or whatever, I had discussed this with you, that I thought it was completely crazy that we were going to chop these other trucks. And I mean, you're just multiplying the problems you've had in the past. And I sure appreciate you that you've rethought this, and I think you've made a great decision. As we know, in the wintertime, four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive vehicles are important, even on the city streets, the alleys, wherever. And then when you get in the rural areas, they're even more important. So I think that was a great decision, and I appreciate the time you spent to reevaluate your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. And I'll speak to this a little bit. Chief Osborne came to me and talked to me about priorities and what his priorities are, and he really, outlined his vision and what the need was for the fire department. And to me, this makes sense. I know it'll be an investment into the future that we'll need, and one way or the other, it's going to come to us anyhow. And so preparing ahead of time, looking at what his budget was and what the needs of the department are, is really forward thinking, and I think it bodes well to the public when we're answering the question what the need is and everything there. So Chief Osborne, thank you for your due diligence on that. Any other questions of Chief Osborne? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Gallagher. Chief Executive Gallagher. Jeez, I keep wanting to call you JP, my apologies.
It's okay.
Mr. Osborne, do we have any Type 3 engines in Butte-Silver Bow? Obviously not at the pace, or any of the volunteer
Thank you.
trucks, stage, or
Thanks,
Type
Commissioner
3?
O'Neill.
Thank you.
Chief Osborne.
Yeah, Chief Executive, members of the council, we do have a few very old Type 3s, I believe 2 of them, that do not have the modified, like I was explaining to you, pumping capabilities. So they are Type 3s that are purely wildland Type 3s. We have no, I guess you can call them Type 2s, is what I guess you could call it. It's a mixture between a Type 3 and a Type 1. So we have 0 in our county. We have 2 Type 3s, I believe. Like I said, they're just a big Type 5, just like our rescues, basically. But they're single cab, older units, small tanks, small pumping capabilities, and pure wildland. Cannot support a structure fire.
Thank you, Chief Osborne. Any other questions? Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just want to thank you, Zach. I mean, I learned a lot tonight. You're totally prepared, and I can see why you're in the position that you're in. I think you have some great ideas coming down the road, and I think that Butte-Silver Bow should get behind it and help you out with the future. So thanks again.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Any other questions? Seeing none, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to concur with Communication 2022-55 and place this on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Moving on to communication number 2022-58. Eileen Joyce, Butte-Silver Bow County Attorney, requesting Council Commissioners authorization for Chief Executive Gallagher to sign a grant award for the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program, RSAT program, in our local detention facility, and to schedule a public hearing for the February 16th, 22 regarding this unanticipated revenue. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I spoke with Eileen, or actually she called me, and I see that I should have expounded a little bit more on my recommendation I made on Friday. This has a two-part feature to it. The first is a request to authorize the chief to sign a grant award, and then the second is to hold a public hearing. So at this time, I'd like to change my communication recommendation to concur with the request to authorize the chief executive to sign the grant award and then hold this in the committee of the whole pending the public hearing. Any questions? Does that make sense?
So we,
Was that
We
a
have a
formal
second?
motion?
so we have a motion.
Was that a formal motion, though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, second.
So we have a motion and a second to concur to sign this and then to hold for the public hearing.
Right.
Okay. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change the vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on, we've already done section 3, so we'll move on to section 4, ordinance and resolutions introduced to judiciary. We have resolution number 2022-03, resolution 2022-09, resolution 2022-10, and 2022-11 will be referred to judiciary. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's any public comment on any matter not on the agenda tonight. If anyone is in the audience that would like to come forward, and speak on any item that is not on the agenda tonight, please step forward to the mic. Seeing none, it looks like we just move on to the calendar and other meeting events. Please note of all the different meetings that we have coming forward. And so with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Have a great night. Stay warm.